Welcome to an interview with Kuntarkis on giants. The recording for this interview happened over 3 separate occasions. I've spliced them together so as to share maximum knowledge without repetition. This interview starts not about giants but about desiccation, which I didn't know at the time is the removal of moisture from something. And this led to giants, as you'll soon hear. So, without further ado, here's Kuntarkis.
I mean, look at that professor and that scientist and that spiritual teacher. What's his name? Dr. Deepak Chopra.
Yeah.
He's proven scientifically that your body, our bodies, are 99% energy, over 76% water.
Wow.
Right. So when you perish, your body weighs less than 1/5% to what it originally weighed once it's dried all out. And it all desiccates back into dust. And if it was left in the earth, it would return to dust normally. Worms would come in, eat, liquids would go out, they'd become another formation, and you wouldn't exist. Break right down to your bones, and eventually your bones would disappear as well. That's why they have not found, this is interesting, that's why they have not found, when there has been wars throughout human history, massive wars where tens of thousands of soldiers have died in one day in a battle, being cut up and chopped up with swords in the past, right? They've never ever found a field with all those bones. They found the grass, rich. They believe that's where the war was, but they've never dug up enough to actually see, well, where's all the bones? You know, where's all the swords? Where's all the swords?
So they disintegrate, and the swords disintegrate?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow.
And the reason I know that to be true, when Roman was about 9 years of age, he was given a sword. He was given one of those bayonets that go onto the end of a Japanese rifle.
Oh.
Right?
Yep.
He made an exchange with a friend, so he took that. And he didn't want anyone to know, so he wrapped it up in some cloth and he buried it. And it was buried for about 10 years. And when he was one day under the house of his father's house, he remembered and he went to dig it up. All the material had disappeared and the blade was nearly gone. Can you imagine over, say, 1,000 years, it would not exist?
That means like if we had dragons that died here, there'd be no bones. And what's the other one? Oh, there's mention of giants. What do you know about giants in our human history?
They never actually existed on this earth before an alien race actually placed them here to actually help emperors around the world to fight their battles, because there were some very aggressive nations trying to take over certain lands. And these aliens actually helped the emperors out because they wanted the connection on a friendly basis to remove minerals, especially gold, off this planet, because they have very unique methods in using actual gold. So those giants were extracted from another planet and dumped here. But also they had what they call inserted transmitters, that they were programmed to follow all rulings or orders by the emperors. But eventually there was problems and they started killing and eating the emperor's people, because that's what they were. They reverted back. It wasn't long enough. So the aliens had to get rid of them, but they weren't going to take them back all that way. So what they did, they dumped them on this island that had no food. And the only way they could get food was because of passing ships. They would throw massive rocks at the ships, sink the ships, and naturally the survivors would swim to the shores. And that was their food source. And they had these massive caves that they created. And they held them prisoners and they ate them when they wanted them. Now, that happened a little over 19,000 years ago. That actually occurred. And that lasted for several hundred years because these creatures lived a long time. But eventually, they died out one by one. And they would end up eating each other. And that's what the interesting thing is, because they were cannibals.
Oh, wow. Do you know, or could you look into how many were brought and put here, and were they male and female, or?
Only males. They didn't want reproduction. Only males.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, only males. And roughly, there was about 70 of these beings were actually placed upon the earth. And what was inserted into their brain was some sort of transmitter system that held a certain frequency that when the emperor spoke, they would follow his orders. But that went haywire. And they started attacking the emperor's people, the cities, and they couldn't fight them. They were so huge, and they were like Neanderthals in a sense. And where they lived on their own planet, they were like, again, barbarians with each other. And they weren't conscious beings. They didn't have conscious thought. They were like a tiger or like a T-Rex. All they wanted to do if they saw you was get you and eat you. That was their existence. And that's why they were placed on this earth. And eventually died out. That's why there's no remnants, because it's like swords. Everything just turns to dust eventually. And people might say, well, why didn't they just swim to the shores? Well, they couldn't, because you see, they were like vampires. They could not go into salt water because the salt water to them was an acid.
Ah, really?
And it would literally melt their flesh, like make it go soft. And it would literally fall off their bodies if they were in the salt water too long. And some of them actually tried that and they perished and they just sank to the bottom and just were eaten by other species in the oceans. Wow. Yeah. Because even the aliens found them so strong that they used to hurl these massive rocks at their spaceships. And that's why they were scared to actually come down, because they used to bombard them. But, I mean, they couldn't kill them all because they had these massive caves that they made on this island where they could hide.
Wow.
And what's really interesting, there was a scientist and an archaeologist who discovered this island, but they discovered where rocks had fallen, and when they dug the rocks away, which took a lot of work, they discovered these massive caverns that looked like they were broken out by other rocks, something that broke them out to create these massive caverns. And they found things in there that all were desiccated, but never found bones or anything like that.
And now, Kuntarkis shares a bit more about the aliens that brought the giants here.
And they put them on this island, and they realized that eventually they would all die off. That's what they wanted to do. They didn't want to cause karma because they believed in karma, this alien race. They weren't a warring type race. They were scientific, and also they were miners. And they took all their minerals back to their own planet because their planet was getting depleted.
Did they look a lot like us? Were they humanoid?
Yes, they did. Very humanoid. But what they did have was a much larger head, like a brain. They had a much larger brain, and their head sort of went up. And they've actually, what's really funny, I saw a show, and I said, oh my God, they've got, Giorgio was doing the investigation, and they found skulls that had this top part of their head, like say another 6 inches or 4 inches higher than a normal human head. And that's an extra brain power, more brain capacity.
And that was them, you reckon?
And that was them. Yeah, I do. I believe that was them, because one of them ended up staying on Earth because he liked Earth so much, because he could manipulate the natives. That's what he called them, the natives. And he became the emperor in Egypt. Right? Eventually he died.
There you go. Giants on Earth. Edited from a few times that I asked Kuntarkis about it. For more on Kuntarkis, go to etcconsciousness.com or simply search Kuntarkis. That's spelled Kuntarkis. Till next time, cheers.